Hello, folks. JB here. There's been a couple of things on my mind about for what I've been seeing, far as people, in their finances and building wealth and that kind of stuff. You know, early retirement, just getting some money in the pocket, whatever. And what I've been seeing on these YouTube channels, and there've been some good ones, but they generally look towards, you know, this is what I wish I should have done or what I could have done. Well, I haven't retired yet. So I'm gonna start talking about what is leading up to my decision to retire and how I built my wealth, whatever my number is. You have your number, I have my number. And what I found out is people don't really talk about in the moment. So I'm gonna start talking about in the moment. So let's get right to it. So when I was younger, I had a paper route. Okay, it was like 9 or 10. The paper was like 90 cents a week. Sometimes people would give you $1 and let you keep the dime. Sometimes they wouldn't. And I remember getting that paper route, and my grandfather and my father. My grandfather told my father when he was younger, and then they both told me when I was around 9 or 10. Whenever I had that paper route, and they were trying to tell me how to save. And what my grandfather said was, or to my father told me, and then they both told me. My father said, "Son," he said, "every man, when he gets his pay, he should spend something on himself first." And he said, even if you go out and get you a pack of cigarettes, a newspaper, and a soda. So I'm like, what? I said, "Pops, I don't smoke. Like, what?" But if you know, you know. When you're raised in certain types of neighborhoods and you come up and it's a tough neighborhood, a lot of, especially a lot of the black neighborhoods, we tend to talk in riddles. You have to understand. You have to use your mind. You have to use logic to understand a lot of basically the lingo in the hood. So I'm trying to understand what he means by that. And he starts to explain to me, and I didn't get it back then. And he told me again when I got a car wash job when I was like 14. He says, if you go out and you bring every single dime that you have into the house and never spend anything on yourself, it's not going to be good for you in the future. He said a man is going to get kind of restless not having a dime in his pocket. So I'm like, all right, what does he mean? So now let's put that in perspective. Okay. I don't know how much, you know, that would equate to today, but back then, like I said, a week's worth of newspapers was 90 cents. So if you divide that by 7, that's about 12 cents a newspaper. So 12 and a half cents. So let's go with 12 cents. So 12 cents a newspaper. A soda was 25 cents, and a pack of cigarettes I think he smoked was 60 cents at that time. So let's go with, for the week, we're gonna get a week's worth of papers. That's 90 cents plus 60 cents is $1.50 plus 25 cents. Okay, so essentially he said take $1.75, spend it on yourself. $1.75. Now when I first made that comment, I'm sure a lot of people were out there, no, that's how people get in trouble. They spend all their money on themselves. But again, as I told you, when you're raised in certain types of neighborhoods, when you have sayings like, you know, somebody will say, "You already know," and they didn't even say anything, but they say, "You already know," or "It is what it is." You know, so there's like a lot of little sayings, a lot of little things that they said back in the hood that you just had to understand. And so I started understanding, and I'm trying to help you, enlighten you, turn you on to some game. But basically, he was saying take $1.75. So let's say that my salary on 36 customers, let's say I got $1 from each customer. That's $36. $36 a week. $36 a week is $72 every 2 weeks. I'm going to go by the year 1980 because we want to make it just an even number. In the year 1980, if I got a $72 paycheck every 2 weeks, how much would that equate to in the year 2026? All right, it says a $72 paycheck every 2 weeks would be $290.99 today. That's $290 for a 9-year-old kid. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you have a 9-year-old kid, 9-year-old grandkid, niece, nephew, if they brought home $300 every 2 weeks, you would be like, wow, that's not bad. Of that $300 every 2 weeks, you're telling them they need to spend $5 on themselves. That's basically what my grandfather was telling me. Okay. So that lesson right there was the number one lesson for the remaining 4 lessons that I've gotten in my life. Pay yourself first, and it was a small amount. It was not a very big amount.